Hello, World Crypto Economic Forum attendees. Next up, we have Dave Weisberger, a fellow Miami partial resident. He is a CEO of CoinRoutes, Inc., and has over 30 years of experience in market structure, quantitative finance, and trading automation. David started his career in technology, where he built the first program trading system for Morgan Stanley before moving to the sales and trading business. Dave, take it away.
So we're going to talk today about best execution, which I think of all the terms in finance and markets probably has the worst PR agency, because when people hear best X, they think, oh, it's a compliance requirement. No, best execution is the ability to buy low when you're buying and sell higher when you're selling, i.e., the better you do, the more money you make if you're trading or investing. So it should be fundamental. Arguably, it is fundamental. But when people look at crypto, they look at it and they go, well, how the heck do you achieve best X? And the reality of the situation is that in crypto, there's more data and more ability to understand how to trade than in almost any other asset class. But getting to that point is difficult. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Let's start with the basics. The basics are that the crypto markets are fully electronic. I know people think that the best way to buy Bitcoin, some, is to go on Telegram and say, hey, what's your price for 25 Bitcoin? I guarantee you that is not the best way to buy or sell. Others might think you go on a particular exchange, I don't want to pick one because there are so many, or app, and say, okay, what's the single price that you do? I want to buy $100, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 worth of Bitcoin. Just get it for me right now. The reality is that is not true. When we look at best execution, and when we founded CoinRoutes, we had the idea in our heads that let's understand how the market structure works and work with it to achieve the best results. So we found several big differences between crypto and equities, for example, or foreign exchange. The first of which had to do with something as technical as tick sizes. In the case of Bitcoin, the tick size is a penny. In the case of something like XRP, the tick size might be 5 or 6 decimal places before you get to a real number. And as a result, the tick size is always really, really small. This makes a very big difference. In the case of equities, if you were going to look at an average order book, you would see it and say, okay, if I look at maybe 5, maybe 10 price levels out there, you would say, okay, that's all I need to see what's going on in this particular stock. In the case of crypto, that is not the case. Now, we are going to, yes, okay, oh, share screen. Okay, hold on a minute. Here we go. I'm going to try to do something different. We're trying to do something here. Here we go. Sorry about the technology, but hopefully this is working. And yes, it is working. And so you can see this is a screen that looks like our trading system. We're going to come back to this. But when I talked about number of price levels, this is a window into what we have in real time. Now, we do this for thousands of names, but let's just look at Bitcoin USD. And let's see right now at this instant, if I wanted to buy 2,000 Bitcoin, what would it look like? Now, 2,000 Bitcoin is a huge order. It's $60 million. And the reality is you could buy 2,000 Bitcoin right now at $30,803, which you can do the math and you can say, okay, it's just around 1%, a little bit over 1% higher than the current offer, which is now $30,477. In order to do that, we had to scan 2,270 price levels in memory in real time. All of those are meaningful. That is 2 orders of magnitude more than you would need to look at if it was equities. And just to complete the picture, if I wanted to sell 2,000 Bitcoin, I would sell it at 30,278, which you can see is actually well under 1%. So it's a little bit better bid right here at this instant in time. But, you know, who knows? I mean, from a quantitative perspective, that might mean something. And once again, I'd have to scan 1,616 executions. That order fragmentation means achieving best execution isn't go out to one place. In fact, if you look, this is going through all the 10 exchanges that are registered or have surveillance in the United States that haven't been disqualified from any jurisdictions, you can see the amounts and the sizes that you would actually get done, and it's pretty evenly split among the exchanges. And you can see, like at this instant in time, FTX US and Kraken will be the largest amounts, Coinbase being the next, etc. So it's a very fragmented market. That's one thing we see. Now, the other thing we know is that the quotes that you can see at any point in time are always moving. So you can see down here, there's a whole quote index. We're going to look, however, at this in an easier way to see it. So if you just look at the top of book, the single price at the top of every exchange, what you see at almost always is the best bid, which you can see over here is on Kraken right now, is 30,500, is larger than the best offer, which is on Coinbase Pro, which is 30,400. Well, I don't want to try reading it, but it's a little bit lower. And what you'll notice is while there's a fairly large bid on Kraken at this instant, 4.6 Bitcoin, the sizes here are really small. When you see, however, is when you look at all these exchanges, you go up and down, you see the sizes are small. One of the things we did at CoinRoutes, we said, okay, let's try to understand size better. So if I looked, for example, for 10 Bitcoins price, where you would have to buy, where would the terminal price be on every exchange? I can see something very interesting. And the first thing you're going to notice is it's not going to be crossed anymore. The bid is going to be lower than the offer. And so we see that the bid is in fact lower than the offer. It's for whatever it is. And you can see the spreads on all of these exchanges are dramatically wider. In fact, sometimes there isn't even 10 on both LMAX and Crosstower. You're having trouble at this instant. It's late in the day for a European exchange, so that's probably why on LMAX's case. But the point is the markets tend to be very size relevant. Well, when you're thinking in equities, for example, if you were going to buy, if you go into a TD Ameritrade account, you hit buy, you don't worry about the size of your order. The price that you see on your screen is the price. In crypto, size does actually matter. Okay. We get the little laugh and we move on. But in addition to that, there's also fees. If you go back to this particular example, what you start seeing is that the fees that you would be paying on an order are rather large. In fact, it turns out that the fees are over 100 times the tick size. The tick size is a penny. The fees tend to be much, much larger for the average investor on most of these exchanges. So if you don't have some notion of both fees and size, you're going to have a problem. The last thing to understand about best execution in crypto is that taking liquidity, saying what's the best price at an instant in time, so-called smart order routing, is generally not very smart. And that is something that's very important. What tends to be better is posting orders and breaking them up in sizes and looking around the market. And so what we do when we do an order, and I just did a few orders in our simulators a few minutes ago, but I'll do one now just so you can see it. If you want to buy Bitcoin, you can just hit buy and hit confirm. And so it's going to go out and it's going to do a simulated trade. And you'll see it's routing orders in various places. It's sending some to Coinbase, some to simulated Kraken, etc. Just because in the interest of time, it's going to keep doing this and keep working. We can look at an order I did a few minutes ago. And in this particular case, what you see is it did some with a market maker. In fact, a large part of it with one of the market makers, which is B2C2. And the rest was on the simulator of FTX. This is Bitcoin, B2C2's UAT environment. Using technology to figure out when to go there. If you look, you'll see the orders are broken up over multiple pages of smaller orders. What's important is when you do this, you can then look at what we call trade cost analysis. And in this particular case, it basically traded right around this was a buy, it traded right on the offer price. The slippage was 0. And it actually was slightly worse. It was like a tenth of the basis point, or actually 1 basis point worse than the midpoint. So it basically traded straight against the offer side with very, very little cost. And it actually did better than the previous interval if you were looking to understand market impact. To give a point to how we look at BestX, we look at it this way. So this is just a chart of like the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so. And what you're seeing is against dollar-denominated pairs, over 98,258 orders, we actually were at a tenth of a basis point. So effectively, nil, no difference, but basically, right around a basis point or so better actually than the midpoint and the far side because of our methodology. Now, to some degree, that's luck, but the reality is we tend to trade this methodology very close to the mid, which is another way of saying something very important, which is algorithms matter. If you can use computers to break orders up and trade slowly, you can do a better job. So will it always be best? Of course not. Will you have a shot at better execution if you do this methodology? Absolutely. And that's really where we think the importance is going. And just to put this in perspective, in the equity markets 25 years ago, pretty much 80 to 90% of all the trades were done by calling up your broker and getting a price. Today, over 80% of trading happens by computer algos breaking orders up and trading it. We see the same thing happening in crypto, and we're proud to be one of the firms that are bringing that to people. So I think I'm out of time. I'm going to stop right there. I'll put my contact information in the chat. I hope this was at least somewhat informative and a very fast 10-minute overview.
Thanks very much, Dave. We appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you here in Miami.